Welcome back to the Outsourcing and Scaling Show. My guest today is Matt Cooke. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, Nathan. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you. For those of you who don't know, Matt helps entrepreneurs shift from the grind to aligned in their energy and relationships so they can create and contribute more. His work has been featured in the Huffington Post, Thrive Global, Mind Body Green, and the Elephant Journal. When he's not serving his clients, you can find him on a road trip adventure with his beautiful wife or chilling at home in California with their spaniel pupper, Sophie. Is that supposed to say puppy?
Pupper. I like pupper.
All right. Now, we're going to talk about all of that. But first, let's take a gigantic step back. Talk to us about what you were like growing up. Did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Were you a rebel? Were you a straight A student? What was that like?
Yeah, that's such a great question, man. I grew up in a family where I thought I was lazy. I thought I was just anxious and overwhelmed and messy, and I was overweight as a kid as well. And so I remember I was that perennial B+ student, Nathan. And I don't know if you can relate to that or if anyone else knows that. I know you have these straight A folks that are just perfectionists, like just nailed it from the moment they got out of the womb. I was the kid that was like, you know what, I'm just going to skate by at decent, at moderate, average. And so I was the B+ student until I found Adderall. And that may be a turn that you may not have expected, but until I found Adderall. And it's funny because I work with a lot of tech companies and I work with a lot of people in the tech industry now because there is such an epidemic of I'm not good enough. And Adderall made me feel like a god. I remember being so confident, so with it, because stimulants are no joke. I don't know if you have any experience, Nathan, or know of other people who have. And I was prescribed it. I was told as a kid, again, because I was lazy, messy, overwhelmed, anxious, all the things. So they were just like, oh, of course, let's slap a label. Let's tell them he's ADHD, which I think, again, is just translate entrepreneur. You're probably an entrepreneur. You probably just have a lot of cool ideas and you're probably super excited about life. And so that was my path. Is I found Adderall and was prescribed it and took it and felt amazing. But then what I started to realize is that I got caught in this trap of trying to perform for love, for attention, and just simply to get by in the world. And so fast forward to after getting out of college, I ended up working for this incredible startup that was creating essentially the Netflix for optimal living. It was a really dope company, and I was one of the first founding members of the company. And what was fascinating was I got to work with 200 of the world thought leaders in everything from productivity to neuroscience to conscious business, conscious parenting, mindfulness, spirituality, health and fitness, you name it, literally across the board. And so by the end, I joked that I had wisdom constipation because I said so much stuff downloaded into me. But I think the big thing coming from that is, again, it's this high performance culture that a lot of us live in, and it has so many positives to it. And I realized through my experience of actually, as I left that company, I actually burnt out at 24 years old, just full on adrenal fatigue, just had nothing in the tank. And so that is why I help my clients do what I do today, because I think Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, they're all incredible men, have incredible visions, and can share this beautiful message of let's hustle, let's grind, let's take massive action, and make shit happen. And I think that's awesome. And not all of us are built for that. And that is, I think, the real myth of being an entrepreneur, is that as soon as we put ourselves into this group and we say, I am an entrepreneur, we all of a sudden think, well, I should be able to do anything and everything then that any of these guys teach. And that's just simply not the case. And so I always say I help my entrepreneur clients shift from grind to aligned, and truly helping them find the blueprint of what's going to work for them. So I don't have that blueprint. That's the work, is to help to siphon down, what are you made to do, and in the way that you're meant to do it. So kind of
what does grind mean to you, and what does align mean to you?
That's such a great question. So I have actually 10 commandments of what an aligned entrepreneur looks like. But a big component of that is not managing our time, but instead managing our energy. And I know it's a big part of what you guys do with Free Up is obviously helping people get back their energy and their time so that they can ultimately create and contribute more in the world. So it's super aligned in that sense. So that's a big part for me, is not having people manage their time, but really managing their energy throughout the day. And because here's the cool thing is, like, our minds are so infinite, and especially as entrepreneurs, like, they can experience so much possibility, and there's just infinite possibilities that our minds can conceive of. Now, the only issue is that we're also humans. And we forget that because our bodies have daily rhythms and cycles. And that's not just pooping and peeing and sleeping. Like, there are actual rhythms and energetic highs and lows that our bodies go throughout a day. And so that is a big thing of my teaching, is like, cool, I understand you want to be superhuman. And with Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and like all the non-cessant things telling you how great everyone else's life is, we have to bring it back to you ultimately. And like, what kind of life are you wanting to ultimately live? And a good question I always ask my clients is like, how long do you plan on having this business for? And everyone's like, well, I mean, forever. I mean, obviously, like, forever to some degree, or, you know, if you want to sell it an IPO and all that stuff, that's great. But like, for the most part, it's like, yeah, no, I want to do whatever I'm doing most likely forever. And so, cool, then like, why are you treating it like you're only going to have this business for another month? Like, why are you in constant sprint mode? And I think that's what I really look at, is like, the grind is the people that are running a sprint rather than a marathon, because business is a marathon. Like, this is not something, you know, like, and you know this, Nathan, it's like, it's not going away overnight unless you choose it to. And that's the thing. I think a lot of us, our bodies end up just taking us out of the race because we push so hard, which again, it's like, there's so much beauty in that too. So I hopefully you and the people listening can really understand that it's like we have the mind over here and we have the body over here. And so as much as we can get them to really line up, I always like to say it's like your head is like 50 miles ahead of your body. And like, let's just get those a little bit closer together, and you're going to find success and abundance and all those fun things. Prosperity.
So I know one part of that is delegating and relying on other people. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. What does that look like for an entrepreneur? Where do you see people go wrong when it comes to doing everything opposed to taking it off their plate?
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard this Abraham Lincoln quote where he says, like, if I had 2 hours to chop down a tree or whatever, he would say something. It's like, I would spend the first like hour and 50 minutes preparing and planning. And then actually spend the 10 minutes actually taking action. So I actually teach a 5-step process that I call the perfect day for entrepreneurs. And a big piece of that is taking action with structure. But everything before that, well, I'll just say them in order. The first thing is declutter, like declutter from the day before. So I don't care if you're in the 5 a.m. club, high performance, or if you wake up at 11 a.m., like, we all have different businesses. And so that to me doesn't really matter. It's so much as soon as you wake up, you're decluttering your mind, you're decluttering your body from the day before. So that could be getting out, getting a workout, like sweating, that's decluttering, right? Like shaking the dust kind of thing, shaking the cobwebs loose. And then, you know, I like to just like pull out a journal and just start ripping through all the things that I've been thinking about, or that have really been present on my mind. I actually have a process I teach called body-based breakthrough. We can talk more about that later, but that's a big part of this process as well. It's like just decluttering. Second is values. Like at that point, like, what are my values? Third, support up. So this is where Free Up comes in, or we're really, you know, getting support comes in. Delegating is support up. So cool. So I've decluttered my mind and my body. I've gotten my values straight of like, this is my vision. This is what I plan on doing. And then 3 is support up. And it's really like calling in the troops, whether you have coaches, consultants, or you have team members, is like really being intentional with how am I putting together the actual steps that need to be occurring rather than just sloppily. And this is where the grind and hustle thing comes in. It's just like throwing shit around, hoping that something sticks, versus very intentionally, like, I don't want to be a machine gun. I want to be a sniper. Like that's really how I look at it. It's like what is all the excess motion or the extra fat in my business and in my life that I can really cut away? And that's really what aligned is. And that's the same thing with this. Is like if I'm going to be delegating something, I need to be like crystal clear on what that thing is. And I'm sure you find this, Nathan, with FreeUp. It's like when people are making all these requests where it's like super unclear about what they're asking for, nobody's going to be able to carry that out. And so that's a really important thing for me, is just getting really clear on the stuff beforehand, really clarifying and spending the time to do that, because it's going to save you so much more time on the back end of having to do all the revisions and all of the, oh, wait, you didn't get that right. And it's like, well, you weren't clear in the first place. So that's what I would say. And then very lastly, after you take that support up, you take action with structure, and then finally reflect and review what worked, what didn't work, and you start it all over again. So I would say go 2-3 cycles of that a day, and you got a solid business.
Can you give us an example of one of your clients, maybe what they were doing before and then what they were doing afterwards to really?
Great question.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of my favorite clients, his name's Tim. He was working for a marketing agency on the West Coast here. He's one of the best marketing agencies on the West Coast. He's a veteran. Like he's been doing it forever. Working 70-hour work weeks when we first met. So you want to talk about from grind to align. Wow. 70-hour work weeks implementing for this company because he's just seen it all and done it all. So he just kind of became the workhorse for everybody, took responsibility for everybody else, all the projects, and just very emotionally had the weight of the world on his shoulders for this company. Funny thing is he didn't even own it, but he was a big part of the company. And by our time that we were complete, and in fact, just going through my course aligned, like that was a huge transformation for him, because by the end of that, he was working 10 hours a week for this same company, consulting them, making twice as much money, which is a lot of fun. And, for him, it's we all have the things that we really want. For some of us, it's like, I want to crush it and make a ton of money. And some of us, it's, I actually want the time freedom. And for him, the time freedom was way more valuable than the money. Again, he made twice as much money doing the consulting. But again, for him to be able to have that time back, and now he's actually building his multi-million-dollar business that he's super stoked about around membership websites and all these fun things. So he's a super exciting case. I have another one, Jamin, really good guy, was working 8-hour work days and now works 4-hour work days and is 4 times more productive in those 4 hours. And again, the biggest thing with this is the energy management. It's like we were really taking a look is like, when are you actually most productive? Like when do you have your highest acuity mentally throughout the day? And how can we maximize and double down on what's working and the time that it's working so that we can actually be more effective in that time? And then there's this really cool concept in neuroscience called undirected attention. So there's directed and undirected attention. So he was spending his time in directed attention, which we can all think of. That's like when we're in deep work, we're in focus mode. And when we're in undirected attention, we're recharging our battery for directed attention. So some of us just don't turn off, and it's the thing that actually kills us. The most important thing is to actually flip off that light switch of directed attention, which includes scrolling on Instagram. Like we just need to be in this sort of diffuse attention, like where we don't necessarily have a goal in mind, right? Like, I don't know if you experience this, Nathan, when you're on a walk, when you're in the shower, when you're on a road trip, it's like those are actually when your best ideas come in. It's 100%. Not when, right? Like it's not when you're like at your desk and you're like, all right, I need to have great ideas right now. It's always when you're in that sort of like diffuse attention, you're sort of, but then that's when those moments of insight hit. So that's a big thing that I teach my entrepreneurs. It's like, dude, you actually like literally downtime is going to actually make you way better in uptime. I don't know, downtime, uptime, the time that you're really working, right? Like the time that you're really in it, crushing it, whatever you want to call it. We need that downtime. That relaxation is so vitally important.
Yeah, I love everything you just said. I mean, even the part where people are productive at different times of the day. Like I'm a morning person from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. I'm rocking it. And there will be some mornings that I'll even go to the gym. And then I feel like I missed the portion of my day, even though I had a great workout. Business wise, I feel like I'm lacking the rest of the day because that's when I'm most productive. And I know clients and friends of mine that are local and they're entrepreneurs and they're most productive from midnight to 4 a.m. And that works for them. So I definitely agree with that. And like you said, some of our best ideas come from different places. For my business partner, Connor, and I, he lives in Denver. And whenever I go and visit him, we go for hikes and we talk business. And that's where some of the best ideas come into play. So I 100% resonate with that.
It's awesome. I love that. Yeah, it's so vitally important. And I don't think enough of us give time to that. And I think that's truly, like we said, that's actually when the best ideas for humanity are going to come through. I think so. One of my favorite quotes, Leonardo da Vinci said, "You cannot solve a problem," or excuse me, Albert Einstein said, "You cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness from which it was created." Meaning, if you have a problem that pops up at work, chances are, like if you're in work mode, you're not going to be able to really get a handle on it until you actually shift out of work mode into a different sort of mindset, really. And that's actually when it's like you kind of get a little bit of space from it. And that's actually when your best ideas come through. So I love that when you're in Denver taking a big hike.
100%. So let's say there's an entrepreneur listening out there. They're working 60, 65 hours a week. They're having success. They're doing $1 to $5 million a year. What would you tell them? What is your first step?
Yeah. First step is this is actually really good. I always have all my clients start with agreements. What are the agreements that you're making in your life with yourself, with others? So go ahead, pull out a sheet of paper and write down, what are the agreements that I have in my life right now, including business partners, including clients, like literally list out every single client that you have, like listing out all the people that you're working with. And I want you to look down at that list. And most of the time, because we can technically hold all this information in our heads, technically. But when you get it down on paper, most of us go, holy shit, like it's like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm agreeing to in my life. Because it all just comes on like one thin layer at a time until we start to build this like insane thing that we never actually wanted. And so I have people take it. It's essentially an inventory of your agreements with yourself and with others. So we have 3 options with every single agreement that we make. So a lot of us think of like commitments and it's like, you made a commitment, you got to stick to it, right? I like to look at it as we made an agreement here, right? And we're humans, right? So it's like you got 3 things. You can either keep the agreement, you can obviously break the agreement, or this is my favorite one, is you can renegotiate the agreement. It's like, hey man, listen, I realize I'm not really in this like to the level that I think we originally agreed to. And I want to deliver for you, but I'm just seeing it's just like, it's not going to happen. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to renegotiate, because I know if I don't fully do this, like you're not going to be happy. I'm not going to be happy. No one's going to win. So let's find something that's in alignment, that's actually aligned for both of us. Like, so, and again, that doesn't always mean like, I'm just going to drop it and be super like flaky and out of integrity. It's like, no, I want to find the thing that's actually going to work for both of us. And that might include delegation, right? That might include me actually delegating it to someone else in my team, or like, hey, actually let me find the person that can be your guy or your gal, right? That's the biggest thing, is so many of us stick around in these really sticky agreements that we ultimately, it just hurts everybody in the long run, because we end up unconsciously self-sabotaging. We create all these resistance patterns where, so if you feel like you're pushing a boulder uphill every single day, that is a surefire symptom that you are agreeing to things that you're not actually unconsciously game for. So, because we all know that, right? Like when you say like, oh yeah, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, and then you don't lose 20 pounds. It's like, well, wait, what was the factor there? It's like, well, unconsciously there's some reason that your body is choosing to hold on to that weight. It's not just because you consciously said, I'm going to do it, that you're going to do it, right? There's an equation there. So if we're not keeping up with an agreement, like if we're not fully like just balls to the walls doing it and like loving it and having tons of energy and enthusiasm behind it, chances are it's out of alignment somewhere. So we just need to find like, cool, let's have that. And that's the thing, is sometimes that's the hardest part. We don't want to have that icky conversation with that boss, with that potential client, with that lover, with that, partner, whatever it may be, is like, hey, we need to have this uncomfortable conversation. So I think the most courageous thing you can do actually is to have that sticky conversation where it's like, hey, this isn't in alignment anymore. I'd love to renegotiate this so that everybody can win here.
Love it. Matt, this has been awesome. Where can people find out more about you, and what are you most excited about for the rest of the year?
Yeah, that's awesome. So I have a course. It's called Aligned, and it's 10 weeks to shift from grind to align. We have some really awesome pillars in there: vitality, focus, connection, performance, and then your perfect day. And we just crush it throughout those 10 weeks. It's a ton of fun. So if anyone's interested in checking it out, my website's matthewtcook.com. Otherwise, you can just do go.matthewtcook.com/aligned, and hopefully that'll be in the show notes or something, but go.matthewtcook.com/aligned, and that is the course. So if you're interested, check it out. And I'm super friendly. You can always just shoot me an email as well at matthew@matthewtcook.com. Either way, I'm happy to meet you.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Have a good rest of the day. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Did you enjoy this content? If so, click like, leave us a comment, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you great content all about hiring.